G'day Dan and Josh at the Acoustic Centre with a very exciting day as we welcome our very first international guest into our disclosed tone room. We'd like to introduce you to our good friend Billy Gill, Director of Sales and Marketing for Taylor. Billy, can we start off by hearing a little bit about yourself, how you came to work for Taylor, how long you've been with them, and a little bit about what you do?
Yeah, okay. I'm not the Director of Sales, although I may ascend to that position in the future. I'm one of the export sales managers. We have one based in Latin America, one based in Asia, and I handle a big slice of Asia, Australia, New Zealand, and the Hawaiian Islands for Taylor. So happy to be here. Happy to be the first international guest in the room. I've been with Taylor for 15 years next February. And I've had the great benefit or great blessing to work with only 3 companies in my career. Seymour Duncan for about 13 years.
Oh, wow.
Warwick for another 2. And then Taylor for 15.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's a very big year for Taylor Guitars, celebrating their 50th anniversary, a huge achievement for any business, really. It must mean a lot to you guys to be celebrating your 50th year.
It does. It's kind of overwhelming to think about the impact that Bob and Kurt had on guitar production around the world. A lot of the original ideas of bringing more technology into the factory setting changed the way guitars are built around the world. I believe that Bob was first inspired by Tom Anderson, as I understand, was the very first person that he saw embracing CNC technology, and Bob was the first one to take it down the road in the acoustic world. So.
Well, Taylor's an incredible company, one that we've loved working with for a long, long time. Today we're going to talk about, well, both the past, the present and the future. We've got a few things that we brought along for show and tell that you brought for us today. I want to kick things off with something like this, a beautiful all COA 724 CE. The story of Hawaiian COA and Taylor dates back a long time. It's been a really important tone wood for you guys. Tell us a little bit about sourcing your timbers and the future in that, for example.
Yeah, that's a really big topic. It's an ever-changing world as well. Obviously, woods come on menu and off menu at Taylor, not necessarily dependent on whether we can get them or not, but more to the point where they ethically sourced. Was any vendor that's selling us that wood as concerned as we are about the future of particularly the revered tone wood flavors that we all know and love. Hawaiian COA is particularly important to Taylor because we probably use more of it than every other builder in the acoustic game combined. And most directly with regard to sourcing, Bob and a very big team of people have been working on the Big Island of Hawaii to essentially regrow a native Hawaiian forest to the tune of about 600 acres. And that project, it is. It's a big give back project, I think, with Bob at the helm. Again, many others involved, but the end result is this magical place that I've had an opportunity to go see, where there's a lot of experimentation about growing groves of COA with different windbreaks. Is it going to grow here better? Is it going to grow over here better? But by and large, instrument grade COA needs to grow very straight and very tall. So a lot of that is having to do with genetic cloning of plants and so on and so forth. But the project thus far is about 4 or 5 years old now, and the progress has been well beyond best expectations. So that means in 50 to 80 to 100 years, we've got 600 acres of perfect tone wood level timber for builders of the world to use. And that obviously will be long after you, me, and Bob are here anymore. So
it's amazing to think that far into the future about your children and your children's children, and the longevity of a company and the faith to go that our company's going to progress that long and do that well. It's pretty astonishing.
Yeah, it's humbling to be a part of. Honestly, at Taylor, I think one of the most gratifying I'm away from my family on this trip for a month, so there's a price to be paid for the job that I love. But I think one of the most gratifying things is to be part of a company that is so dynamic, so kind of future forward looking in terms of design. Not much of what we do as consumers in the acoustic world we're very traditional, right? I mean, an artist can look as wild as possible, but they typically migrate towards an Olympic white Strat or a Black Les Paul, right? We're very traditional in terms of what we consume. So. As traditional as Taylor guitars might look on the outside, there's a lot of technology and there's a lot of forethought to the ingredients that make the guitars, that make it really interesting. Every day's different.
Yeah,
Right?
yeah.
When it comes to designing new models and using different tone woods and things like that, I mean, what comes first? Does someone like Andy or Bob think, I love the sound of this timber, I want to make some guitars out of this timber? Or first of all, do you have to check out the world supply of a certain timber and see if there's enough wood around to actually make a model out of it?
I think a little bit of both.
Yeah.
I would kind of defer to a little bit of both. I think that a lot of let's use urban ironbark, which has actually a history in Australia, so it's locally relevant. But by the time something might make prime time for us, rest assured that Andy and the design team working with him has been, messing around with the wood for quite a long time to figure out if it was something that was going to sound great. The guitars have to sound great first. That's the job of any guitar manufacturer, is to put something out there that people would go, yeah, this sounds great. So our efforts with urban, reforested wood that would normally turn into garden mulch in the city of which is, actually chamois ash behind the scenes, but we call it urban ash, and it was a wood that we worked with for a long time before that relationship with West Coast arborists began to develop. And they were a like-minded company. You'll find at Taylor, a lot of the vendors, retail partners that we work with, the best relationships are when we are like-minded in kind of having great product, but having a vision for the future. And West Coast arborists was a resource that we felt like a real kinship with at first. So,
Right.
But it all starts with a guitar sounding great, made out of this urban ash. So 2 great examples of woods that we have to begin to tell a story of, because we don't live in a world anymore where we have the ability to have an endless supply of the most revered tone woods. Sitka spruce comes to mind. The 814 CE Builder's Editions, which would be a flagship of our line, are made with purposely made with 4-piece Adirondack tops. So some might recoil from that. But we've embraced that, and just like with the ebony, the marbled ebony being proudly displayed on our flagship model when we first entered into that business in Cameroon, it's like we're going to put it out there, and we're in a position where we can change tastes, and it's not always easy. But
and a lot of companies, all sorts of companies are doing that now.
yeah, that's right. That's right. Some of our ebony is proudly featured on Fenders. The Acoustasonics definitely had marbled ebony fingerboards. So that's kind of an example of a success story.
And we see that in some Australian brands as well. You see some Australian brands using streaky ebony, and it looks beautiful.
But the first year, I'd be lying if I didn't say it was, here comes the phone, and it was either a consumer complaining about I've got a defective Taylor, or a dealer just saying, what is this? How did this pass QC? Those after a year or two of telling that story fairly aggressively, via YouTube and the great ebony video that Bob did, we don't get those calls anymore, right? So we've shifted.
Yeah, it's a great thing.
Yeah, so to be part of that kind of energy and that decision making is really wonderful. I mean,
and on our end, I think it's great too, because magazines are just staring down there. We've got a Wood and Steel magazine down there. Wood and Steel is a great resource for information, and everything you guys put out, we can then share with everyone as well, because we feel like we're experts in what we do here, but like with all your information as well, it helps to, the information gets out there slowly but surely. And that's the prime example, the ebony. It's like, but now we have more ebony.
Yeah,
we can use the usable ebony.
That's right. I will give a plug for the digital version of Wood and Steel, because we used to produce it quarterly. We now only produce it once in January. It's much more of kind of a catalog of what we're offering for the year. The digital version is far superior, because you can hot link through to, if we have an ebony article, you can click through and see a video of Bob actually in Cameroon working with the team there. So it's much more dynamic. It helps us save paper as well. So the ever-evolving journey to sustainability.
Right. I've got a challenge for you, Billy. How good are you at describing the sound of tone woods without actually being able to hear it? I'm going to get you to describe the sound of COA, and then I'm going to get Joshy to play it. Because Joshy and I have to do this in here all the time. Try to describe how guitars sound, and you're picking up models that are just subtly different, and we're trying to portray it through the mic, the sounds of these timbers. And it's hard, right? Because sound is kind of like colour. Yeah. What does Taylor love about the sound of Hawaiian COA?
Well, first of all, on the top of a guitar, it's certainly not hard to look at, right?
Right.
It qualifies.
One of my favorite.
It ticks the piece of art box,
Yeah,
right?
it's beautiful.
But
Stunning.
anytime you're using a tropical hardwood, most commonly a Taylor mahogany or COA, you're changing the density of the wood on the guitar's top. You're changing the ability for it to flex, which would drive top end. In the case of COA specifically, you have that beautiful, much more mid-range sound, a little bit more meaty sound. But unlike mahogany, which is also another common and really great sounding tropical hardwood top, COA has this additional upper mid-range push, which I believe really continues to bring out that clarity and balance on the top end that we're famous for. So,
Should we have a listen?
yeah,
There we go.
I think you've nailed it, Billy.
Yeah,
think you've nailed it.
I've
You
also
can hear it.
I'm just checking the setup and it looks really good, Josh. So
Yeah, it's a good setup. There's no problem with that.
Beautifully done. That's the 724 CE, all Hawaiian COA. Lovely to kick things off with an all COA guitar.
yeah, and it
from
also
Taylor.
now comes in an all gloss finish. So this is one of the very first units that's made its way over to Australia.
Yep.
And come and check it out in their beautiful
You often,
retail showrooms.
yeah, well, often people think that it's going to be lacking clarity, or sustain when you have a timber top that's not spruce or any of the other spruces that we use, but you can hear that that's got plenty of sparkle and clarity.
Yeah.
It's a beautiful thing.
Really cool. I've got something else for you. The GS Mini, Billy, has to be one of the great success stories of, the guitar world of the last 20 years.
right.
I mean, we've gone on about these guitars in here several times, how much we love them. Taylor are now doing these art tops, the GS Mini
that's right.
art tops. You chose this one to come and show. It's the carbon grey top. Tell us about what inspired the new coloured art top range.
Well, the GS Minis are a lot of fun, and they're fun for the primary reason is the fact that they really ergonomically fit everybody from a brand new, a novice student. It's a professional level guitar, so a lot of people just gravitate towards the fact that it's a much smaller package with a much bigger sound. That was the
Right.
intent. Long story short, there is Bob kind of accidentally developed the travel guitar product class when he made the Baby,
Yep.
kind of half as a joke many moons ago.
Right.
Now, of course, as witnessed in your inventory, everybody makes a travel size guitar. So
Yeah.
in 2010, one of the very first years I was at Taylor, in fact, this model came to be. And the full 4-inch sound hole and the very, very radical arch on the guitar's top are the two keys to having that much bigger sound than the guitar would one would imagine. But the art top versions, we are using a new micro spray technology that allows us to have fun with color, have fun with more intricate designs, and kind of further expand the fun of the GS Mini. We make it in a bunch of different top timbers already. The COA top probably coming to mind as we just spoke about it. This is a spruce top, but it allows us to we just did a deal with Major League Baseball where all of the teams have their logo on the top of the guitar. So just a variety and expanding the appeal to players that punk rockers, goths. Here you go.
Well,
There you
I always tell the story to people that come into the shop. They come in and they're like, "Where's the GS Minis?" I'm like, "Oh, well, we've run out." And it's as I say to a lot of people, it's almost like if we had a magical tree that sprouted GS Mini fruit every morning, we still wouldn't be able to keep up with GS Minis.
We feel that pain. And in fact, we talk about the fact that it's a very real thing that maybe one day our second factory in Tecate, Mexico, might have to have a baby. And it might just be a GS Mini, a strictly GS Mini factory. In fact, GS Minis
just
in and of
unbelievable.
themselves are bigger than a lot of acoustic guitar companies just in that product class.
Incredible.
It's just ridiculous.
Joshy, give us a taste and we'll be able to hear how well this stands up to a full-sized
All
guitar.
right.
Beautiful.
How long do you reckon the R&D process process was in getting this design right?
My understanding was a
before they
long
released it?
time, and it just, it was a guitar that had a complicated birth, right? But like any great design, I would put this in the same lineage as, like, even though it might seem unrelated on the surface, when you think about the original design for a Stratocaster or Telecaster or Dreadnought over at Martin, it's those designs that nail it the first time out of the gate tends to be the one with a lot of unit sales for a long time. So clearly we did something right.
You sure did. It's astonishing.
Yeah.
It really is.
And then he's got a bass little brother too. We do a version of the GS Mini in a bass format as well. So.
Yeah.
Billy, looking to the future, there's some really exciting things on the way from Taylor.
Yeah.
One of the things that we haven't seen yet is the new Circa 74 amp, which is not too far away. We're so excited to get that amp into the store.
Yeah.
What can you tell us about it for those of us who haven't actually got our hands on one yet?
I would qualify it as a gorgeous piece of furniture that also happens to be a really elegant, beautiful sounding PA in a box. 150 watts solid state, and also, my wife there's a Bluetooth feature that makes it the home streaming music stereo as well.
Excellent.
Perfect.
So very much lives in the world of beautiful furniture, but can't wait for them to get here. We're just weeks away.
That's great.
And they have exceeded our sales expectation in the States, but I think it's one of those things that, if you look at it, it's one of those, I've got to have one of those at my house.
That's
And
how
I think
I'm feeling
that's
about
your
it.
feeling. Yeah. We've talked about that, haven't we?
Yes, we have. Yes, we have. I can't wait to see them. The other thing we wanted to touch on briefly was the Legacy series. That is a super exciting thing that's on the way from Taylor.
We talk about this all the time, you and me.
Yeah, we do.
discuss this idea
Yeah.
all the time.
Yeah.
Glad you're doing it.
Yeah. The Legacy series is kind of the swan song of our 50th year. We've been having fun all year. As you guys know, and many of you out there that have taken the guitars home know, the 50th anniversary collection it ran all year. And the final act of that will be basically, building new old stock Taylors from the mid to late 70s, and specifically guitars that have had heritage in our line. So probably the most important to mention first, Neil Young famously holding up the 855 and Rust Never Sleeps, much to the surprise of a young Bob Taylor watching the movie at a drive-in. Right? Imagine that feeling, This is like his musical hero.
Unbelievable. Yeah.
So the 815 and the 855, 6 and 12 string versions of our original jumbo with the mustache bridge, respectively, and then the 514 CE in mahogany and cedar.
One of my favorites.
Always a great model.
Very much a chocolate and peanut butter tone wood pairing from a lot of different builders, but the 714, which was rosewood and cedar, and
Cedar.
and then an 810, a square shoulder dread, which
Great model.
when Taylor guitars began in the 70s, it was kind of like dreads and jumbos was what everybody produced. So
The Taylor Dreads are fantastic. Any Taylor Dread you ever get your hand on it's an incredible guitar.
and so the first 100 sets you're getting a set of 5, so one of each. And those are all wet signed by Bob and Kurt.
So cool.
And again, these are X-braced. These really rely on technology that was what we were using at the time. So we're having fun. It's a complete walk around the historical block for Taylor. And these guitars are, unlike the 50th anniversaries that we've celebrated thus far, these models really were more indicative of the company in the modern age.
Yeah.
This is the final real walk around the block.
And we can expect to see them roughly when, do you think?
Weeks away.
Yeah.
Weeks away.
Mentioning the X-brace, a few years ago Taylor made the move to their current V bracing pattern. I know it's a huge answer that you could go into for hours, but that is a huge decision for a company to make, to kind of, to change their sound to a certain degree. What went into that, and what made that happen, do you think?
Yeah, I think one thing to mention out the gate is I think it really shows the company's faith in Andy as a great builder.
Yeah.
Right? Really there's a lot of great guitar builders out in the world. Not many of them have the opportunity as a young builder to impact so many different guitars. We're producing overall 150,000 guitars a year. Roughly half of that is from the USA factory, which means roughly half of what we make sports his bracing pattern. Tremendously important change for the production facility, but it all goes to reinforce the fact that Bob and Kurt have the utmost faith that the company is in the right hands. It's owned by the people that work there now, as of 6 years ago.
Yeah.
And we've got this guy at the helm, which was number one thing on Bob's wish list was whoever runs this company should be able to drop everything in the office, walk downstairs, and build you an amazing guitar.
Yeah,
so
he's a freaky.
Yeah,
he's a freaky
it is
human being.
It is. I would call him a prodigy. You know.
Yeah, that's exactly I, as I said, got to meet him this year and. Being in his workshop, it's just like, I'm just going to build this. And I'm thinking about this, and I'm going to build this, and it's like, wow.
Well,
and he, as he says, is like he talks about his family, his children. They're all sort of building stuff, building cars, and
that's how he grew up. His dad was a
Amazing.
finished carpenter, so I mean, he comes from that lineage. But
so he woke up one day and thought, I can make these guitars sound better.
I think really what it was for Andy was. I think he was originally inspired. He's an avid surfer, and I think he was inspired. Originally, the original intent came while he was watching a set of waves break left and right over a jetty. And as his mind must work on a very high level, he was inspired to start. Bracing is the skeleton of a guitar, and everybody puts the sticks here or puts the sticks here and likes or doesn't like the resulting sound. It's completely subjective. You can't say anybody, you can't measure that somebody was wrong.
Right.
But you can hear a guitar that's overbraced, you can hear it when it's in a chokehold, and you can hear a guitar that has much more volume and sustain. V-class bracing, if you boil it down to its essence, is giving you a plane of rigidity along the plane of the strings on the guitar's top, which is really driving sustain, and it gives you more volume per note all the way up the fingerboard. So it's one of those things that, if you're skilled enough to play right off the end of the fingerboard like Josh here, I think it becomes very apparent that the guitar is giving you all the way up the fingerboard. It doesn't just sound great from fret 1 to 5.
It's true though.
It gives you volume and sustain all the way up, and it does also, what it's doing, in its essence is giving a much more orderly motion to the guitar's top, which we don't normally think about, but a guitar's top is certainly in motion. And the more that we can control that motion, the more that we can eliminate warbles or dead spots or sympathetic vibrations.
Really cool.
And you can definitely feel that under your fingers, particularly with the single note thing that you pointed out. It's just like all the way up the fretboard, all the notes are full, and there's no dead spots. And it was when I first tried it, I was just like, try it again. Did that really just happen? Yeah, it was pretty. Like it's actually quite astonishing.
It is, and to all those players out there that don't play past the 5th fret, well, you can get a capo from these guys and feel it for yourself. So,
but even just as a strummer, or even if you just do play regularly, it's still an amazing sounding guitar. It just has all these extra stuff that if you want to explore it, you'll discover it. That's for sure.
But it all comes back to the fact that a change that dramatic or significant comes back to reinforce the fact that we feel like we have a builder at the helm of our company that is just ready for the next 40 years.
Well, speaking of Andy Poers, Billy, he's got a pretty exciting little side project going on.
Yeah, he does.
Josh has been over and experienced it firsthand. We've fallen in love with these Poers electric guitars. You brought us a couple of special ones today, a couple of new ones. They do so many colours, which we've talked about here a lot. We just wanted to show you a couple of new ones that have arrived.
Yeah, I was going to say new colours would really mean every guitar that we've built thus far. I think it's a different
colour.
I don't know how you guys keep up with that, but it's pretty astonishing the number of colours you have.
Yeah, this is one of the flame tops. I hope you can see from back there in a translucent blue. Do you have an official name on this one, Josh?
It's called Twilight Blue.
I like it.
Twilight Blue officially. Yeah.
I like it.
So, and what I love, I mean, aesthetically speaking about these guitars is the way, they put all the colours together on there, and it's all just matches perfectly.
I mean, from the tip of the trem arm to the control knobs. I mean, I'm looking at this really up close, and it does. It's a room that's well tied together, isn't it?
And as we the main point of the trip was to speak about Southern California, the surf culture, the car culture, and everything that influenced everything that goes on in that guitar. And especially all of the, the way that everything would fall off making and glassing a surfboard. It's like classic Andy. It's like, well, we can make knobs out of that. We can make the tips of the tremolo arm out of that. And it just goes together perfectly on that guitar.
Yeah, each little part of that guitar is sewn together by his true passions in life. So and the best thing about the guitars is this is not meant to be a better version of anything else.
No, it's
so Tellys and Strats and Les Pauls don't need to be afraid out there in the world. It's a guitar that really from the ground up the design was meant to be a departure.
We've had a few customers hanging out for this one. Jet black. Can't go wrong.
They might not be able to see a beautiful black fire stripe pick out on there too, so that is definitely appealing to me.
All subtle. Very dark fretboard on that one. darker than usual.
Yeah.
Which looks really beautiful.
I love how Andy went into such depth with the color of the knobs is either cool or warm.
Yeah.
Right. So the shades of all the different colors.
And all the machined, the back plate, if you turn over the back plate, we call that aluminium in Australia, aluminum back plate, that's all machined.
I speak Australian though, so I can understand what you're saying.
Okay.
Two new colours into stock.
And we've spoken a lot about those, we've played those a lot, we've done a couple of videos on the guitars, you know. So
and it's really cool to release those out into the world, and we've had a lot of, I'm not going to rattle on about a bunch of different artists, but we've had, the guitars have migrated and magnetized their way into the hands of players that sat down and went, wow, okay, this is something really, really special and amazing. Again, like V-Class, if you sit down and play the guitar, it's like, yeah, this is really different. This is really different, and I think it's, it's apparent, and it doesn't need to be. The guitar can tell you about it, not a human being. So
and it's definitely its own thing. Yeah, it's got the flavor. It's got flavors of guitars that you'll know and love, but it's its own thing, that's for sure.
And I would say that the balance and the weight is spectacular.
Oh,
he actually designed the guitar to be able to stand on its own on the butt end of the guitar.
Yeah.
So the balance is proper, and I think a lot of people that put it on to play, if you're a gigging musician, it's like, wow, okay, I can be this comfortable for 2 hours.
Yeah,
Wow.
absolutely.
Billy, thanks very much for spending the afternoon with us. How long you down under for this time?
I leave to New Zealand on the 26th, so it would be a kind of a full 2 weeks, and I have I'm fortunate enough to be able to spend a lot of time in your great country. And this trip began in Perth, and we hit all major markets, but Hobart this time around. We'll do that next year, but lovely country. An amazing environment that you guys have at the shop. It's not every day that I walk into a salon of guitars, I guess I'd call it, that beautiful. And I would give it up to a lot of our friendly competitors. That room is full of an amazing amount of instruments from an amazing amount of builders, small and big. And there's nothing like in the acoustic guitar world. You've got to go into the pet store to see which puppy licks your hand. So if you have the benefit of being in Melbourne or in Greater Melbourne, you guys provide a great resource. Come in and just play everybody's guitars and see which one works for you.
Good on you, mate. Thank you so much. Congratulations on your 50 years, and we look forward to another 50.
Thanks. Me too. Cheers, guys.
See you again. Bye.
Bye.